Our next speaker is a professor of reading and language arts at CCSU. At this time, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Jesse Turner, professor at CCSU.
In my bag I have about 100 copies of a nice little two-pager about assessment, nice and simple, written for parents and community members, and I'll give that out. But I have some points to address with you today. It's funny, we're talking about rigorous standards, and we know that the Latin root of rigor is depth. So, we get that stuff. You see that clearly over here, and there's a piece of me that says, what are they proposing? The depth of the soul and heart of the citizens of this nation, their future. That's part of that piece there. But I want to talk to you first about, we're told that this is best practice and this is research-based. Well, my area of assessment is reading and writing processes. My PhD is from the University of Arizona, and I've spent my whole life studying assessment. That's not that I would be saying that I would be against assessment. No, some assessment makes perfect sense. Diagnostic assessments are assessments that tell us, that help us develop instruction and individualized programs for kids. And then there's stuff that teachers do every day. That assessment is formative assessment. It's about 95% of what happens in school. And you know what? When you ask that teacher, they know exactly what they need to do a minute from now. That's what that assessment is about. And some of the Common Core stuff is to move that assessment out of the room, to take it away. But then we look at standardized assessments, and I look at those, and there are some times that maybe we might need them, but I turn around and say, we really give standardized measures in schools so we can see how our schools are doing, not how our children are doing. So when we start doing that, if I start testing the child, not for them, but I test them to see how our schools do, we have a very scientific method that can do that. It's called the sampling method. It's the gold Cadillac method. It's used all around the world by all those nations that outscore us. They use a sampling method. Not only do they use a sampling method, but the NAEP assessment, the assessment that the department, the United States Department of Education uses themselves. They use a NAEP sampling method with their NAEP assessment. What does that mean? That means that we will only assess about 500,000 kids, and it probably means during that time, over the course of 13 years in your public schools, your child may see that assessment maybe twice and never for the whole thing. Maybe for about 45 to 65 minutes of that assessment. And if that's good enough for the feds, then it should be good enough for us. So I look at that kind of stuff. Good practice, we're not rooted in best practice. We're not rooted in a gold Cadillac standard. My friend Stephen Krashen, Dr. Krashen, bilingual academic, loves to say, you know, when you go to the doctor, Jesse, and the doctor turns around and he says, you know, I want to test your blood. Does he take all your blood? I said, no. He goes, what's he doing? I said, well, you know, he sticks my finger. And I'm a baby. I'm like, I don't even want that. I can't look. You know, sticks my finger, right? Why are we taking all their blood? That's the question we have to ask here. And we know what the answer is. The answer is that the feds allocated, NCOB allocated $1.2 trillion. That's a massive amount of money. That's more than we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's only 10% of the allocations that we really spent. Because that 10% was used to leverage the other 90% that states and local communities and towns spend. That 90% comes from us, the local taxpayers. So does the other 10. That's our money too. We pay our federal taxes. We give into that piece. But now we're talking about over $10 trillion spent. A new No Child Left Behind legislation, and then it becomes race to the top. They knew they had a problem with NCOB when George Bush was leaving office, President Bush. I mean, at least we can say for the Bush administration, they had research policies, impact studies that examined what they did. And those studies were rigorous, independent studies that you could not work for the company that sold a product to the school. So they were independent studies that were done. And they determined that really the feds didn't know what they were doing. We allocated a gold Cadillac program. The feds said reading first will save the nation. They promised us that every child, as of December 31st, 2013, would be writing and reading and doing math at grade level. Hey, If we didn't have waivers, we'd have 80% of our kids not there. You know, at that reason, what were the waivers about last year? In Connecticut, I testified against the waivers. I went to ACES, asked it for testimony. I think they thought that I would come and say, yeah, let's get the waiver. I said, no, the assessment system is immoral and it's wrong. We shouldn't do this. But I testified against it, and then even when the waiver came out, I thought that was so we didn't have to do all this stuff. What's going on? What's going on? Well, our children have turned into ching-chong money machines for people that are bigger than anything else. So we don't have best practice. We don't have research base because, you know, remember when they pointed out Finland was #1? Everybody said, Finland, Finland. And they said, yeah, we got to be like Finland. And then we found out that Finland didn't even give their kids a standardized test until they were 16. So there we go. What the heck's going on? Standards and testing do not save us. I wanted to give you a little bit, you need to know a little bit of who I am. I'm the most unlikely person to be talking to you today. Okay? I come from a family of steel workers and painters. No one went to college in my family. I'm the only person there. And I don't think I was that smart. I just played football a little better than some others, and I had sisters and a mother who kind of just said, you gotta do something, push, and over there. And I had some great teachers. I had great history teachers. You know how they keep talking about math and reading and language arts? Well, I heard people talk about in the beginning about the Constitution. I heard people talk about, when we talk about this expository nature of reading, well, that means you leave out the life of Jefferson. That means you leave out the life of Ben Franklin. That means you leave out the life of Dr. King. You get those out because those are narratives. I know what they're keeping away from us. The roots of history is high truth. What are we not teaching? History. What are we not emphasizing? History. It's not that math and science aren't important. It's not that reading's not important. It's not that writing's not important. They are. But what about the content? What about who we are? So I said I wanted to tell you who I was, so I'll tell you who I am. I'm the kid that, as a child, my father left us when I was 10 years old. My mother was a waitress, worked 6 days a week, climbed 4 flights of stairs to get us up there. We've known winters without Christmas trees. We've known winters without heat. We've known poverty. We know what it's like to be hungry. We know what a Thanksgiving meal is when you get some Wonder Bread and some mayonnaise. Wow! Ooh, thank you, Lord. Yes. I also know that I'm standing here not only because of great teachers, but because of a group of prayer ladies. My mother was in the prayer ladies, and the ladies really kept us out of trouble by going down and telling the Reverend, get those boys off the street right now. Take them away from them. They're hanging out in that, and I'm telling you, Reverend Fitzgerald had to go get us almost on a daily basis. So I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky, lucky, lucky. Not gifted, just lucky. But I also want to tell you who was produced in that case. So when the towers fell at 9/11, right, George and Arula ran into those buildings. You see, we really had, poor kids only had one choice when you go up in the ghetto. Not one choice. You become, if you're going to either become a policeman, a fireman, or a teacher. That was what we thought. Those were the only professionals we knew in our community, because our community had been devastated. Everybody ran out. We had white flight, black flight, brown flight. Everybody was leaving, and only the poorest were there. But when George and Arula, when those planes hit the tower, they're in Jersey City Fire Department at the Holland Tunnel. That's right around where we all grew up. Played in those in St. Anthony's school. We played right in their basketball courts every night over there, and we could see those towers go up. And we used to think that, what if they fell? Would they cause a tidal wave in our little town, Jersey City? Well, see, when that first plane hit the tower, George and Arula and that team, they were across that tunnel in 6 minutes. They were one of the first crews on the scene. And see, only one came back. Only one came back. And the other took him 6 years to get his retirement pension over there, because they fought him every step of the way over there. So what I think about that is, I don't know about these stems and all these things. What I know is about the people that run into the burning buildings. That's what I know. That's more important than any of the other stuff they want to assess. And if they take that away from us, we're in trouble. So